Well, we have a lot of questions that we're trying to ask and answer. We're a large consortium. Particularly interested in the first few moments of the oil blowout, what happened. And so we're doing a lot of research on high pressure, low temperature, explosions of hot oil into the environment. So that's a combination of experimental studies and also modeling. We're also interested in the ecological impacts. So for example, we're looking at the pathways that oil can actually get from the surface to the bottom. You know, not all oil floats. And so why does it get there, and what is it doing ecologically in terms of toxicity to animals? We have a large fish and fisheries program where we're trying to understand impacts on animals such as red snapper and deep water groupers, et cetera. And then we've also got an ecosystem modeling program trying to understand, you know, from the larger Gulf of Mexico, how do we put the act together? What we've learned actually is some pretty exciting things. Never before in the history of blowouts did we understand that a substantial part of the oil could actually end up on the sea bottom. We all learned in fourth grade that oil floats, right? Well, maybe not always. And trying to understand the mechanisms of how oil, you know, goes to the surface and then actually gets deposited on the sea floor has been a major new finding that we've had. And, you know, we're trying to delve deeper. And one of the ways that we've tried to do this is there have actually been two large marine blowouts in the Gulf of Mexico. One Deepwater Horizon in 2010, and the other one, a well called Ixtoc-1, which was in 1979 and 1980. And so we feel that, you know, we have a good understanding of what Deepwater Horizon did, but is that just an exception or an anomaly, or does that happen normally when we would expect a big blowout? So we went back down to Mexico and we did sediment coring down there, and sure enough we found the same deposits of oil at the surface that were at the surface deposited in the marine sediments. So now we think we have a mechanism that works a lot of the time for these marine blowouts. So that's certainly new. One of the other things is, of course, we'd never actually had a blowout at a mile deep before, and so understanding the physical processes that make fine droplets, you know, when a hot oil explodes into a cold environment and shatters these oil droplets into tiny pieces, is absolutely brand new. And the only way we can understand that is to recreate that in a high pressure laboratory, and in this case, the one in Hamburg, Germany. One of the complaints of scientists that have been working on Deepwater Horizon is that prior to this spill, we had very little what we call baseline data. That is, what's the level of contamination in the fishes and the bottom and the crabs and others the day before that big oil spill. So now we've actually been all around the Gulf in terms of gathering those data. So now we have a very good baseline in the advent of the next oil spill. And that's really important. The other thing is, it's really important for the responders to understand the impact of the different response techniques. You know, for example, using dispersants at the wellhead, flooding the environment with fresh water from freshwater diversions in Louisiana, building sand berms. The science has actually looked at all the things that were done to see if they actually were worthwhile. Well, we have a couple of pretty exciting projects in the upcoming year. As I said before, we're trying to get a baseline all the way around the Gulf of Mexico. So we have good baselines for the U.S. side of the Gulf. In the last 2 years, we've gotten good baselines for the Mexican side. And so the upcoming year, we're actually going to working with the Cubans to try to close off the rest of the Gulf in terms of baseline. So that's pretty exciting, and it's really you know, never been done before in terms of these collaborative oceanographic cruises. And then we'll also go back to the Deepwater Horizon area one more time to see if we can get some time series data.